Often when people think of fretless bass, they think of Jaco Pastorius, jazz fusion, but there are many great examples of fretless bass in pop music. We're going to look at two of my favorite examples of this combo. There are many trends that came out of the 1980s. Some cool, some not so cool. One of the cool bass trends that came out of the 1980s was the combination of a fretless bass and an octave pedal. Two of my favorite examples of this combo are Paul Young's I'm Gonna Tear Your Playhouse Down featuring Pino Paladino and Peter Gabriel's Sledgehammer featuring Tony Levin. I remember the first time I heard a Paul Young song with Pino Paladino on bass. I was out to lunch with my mom and we were just chatting away and this song came on the sound system that grabbed my attention. And I just remember fumbling for my phone, pulling out Shazam and being like, what am I listening to? And since that day, I've tried to incorporate that fretless bass sound into my own music. And let's try to create that tone today. One of the defining characteristics of the 80s bass sound is compression. So my dry bass signal sounds like this. But with my TLC compressor on, just gives the bass a little more punch and focus. Now that the compressor's dialed in, let's look at the octave sound. So on my Octamizer, my octave and clean levels are even. On the octave filter, I rolled it back just a touch to get a warm subby tone, and on the clean tone, I boosted it to about 3 o'clock to get some of that string noise and articulation. Now let's hear I'm Gonna Tear Your Playhouse Down. Now for Sledgehammer. The first thing you'll notice when you hear this song is that Tony Levin was using a pick. It adds clarity and attack to his notes, and it sits differently in the mix. Tony Levin used a Music Man Sabre bass, which has 2 pickups, so I'm going to dial to the middle position so both pickups are on. For the octave sound, I've rolled back my tone to warm it up just a touch, and I've boosted the octave filter to give it this aggressive, synthy kind of quality. If you listen back to the track, there's this rhythm guitar, and it's this tight, focused, funky rhythm that leaves this space. And in that space is where the bass line sits. There's the staccato, but then there's these legato. And to me, that sounds like the pitch bend on a synthesizer. It gives the bass line this expressive vocal quality. What can we take away from this fretless bass with an octave pedal sound? The first is that synthesizer key bass sound. You know, the key bass is more prevalent in pop music now than ever. Some bass players might not want to play the keyboard. They might not want to bring extra gear to their gig. And this is a fantastic option. It worked in the 80s and it works today. And the second point is there's a joy in experimenting. If you look at bassists like Pino Paladino and Tony Levin, they're constantly reinventing themselves and bringing something new and exciting and different to the songs that they work on. If you're the kind of bassist who's stuck in a rut, they feel like they're playing the same ideas all the time, you're looking to spark some new joy into your playing, a fretless bass and an octave pedal is a great place to start.